So instead of watching this tutorial, you could have found a higher paying job, or you could have spent the time meeting somebody new, but no, you decided to spend your time with me here. So first of all, thank you for watching this tutorial, and second of all, I invite you to consider what you're doing with your life. Should you be being more productive? I mean, anyways, we're going to be making audio levels that go to whatever, amplitude the volume is of the music or the sound. So either way, we need to start with modeling. So cube and light, delete them. I'm going to replace it with a plane, and we need to make a grid of like a 2x14 something grid of audio bars, whatever that means. So take the scale it down on the y-axis to get a nice thin boy array. Modifier is going to be a quick way to get a column of 2, and then you take another array, but instead of the x-axis, you set it to the y-axis. By the way, if you take this relative offset and make it anything more than 1, you're going to get these nice gaps when you increase the number, they're just there. So something like 2x14 is what I found works. Take the modifiers, apply them, beautiful. Object set origin to geometry, so it's centered, and then we can actually center its transform. Onto the shading, we need to give this thing colors going from green to red, which is kind of like the opposite of what you'd think, because the lower volumes are actually good. They're green. As you get to the top, you're starting to peak, so that would be red. So with this, I'm going to be using some texture coordinates to tell us how high up we are on this thing. So texture coordinates, this is just a node preview add-on thing. You don't worry about it. It just helps visualize things. Use generated coordinates. I'm going to separate this by x, y, z, and particularly we care about this up and down, so that's the y-axis, which now we have a gradient for going from bottom to top. And then just use a color ramp or a mix RGB or whatever gives you fulfillment. Just pick one and pick the colors. So the bottom one is going to be a nice green, and then the top one is going to be a nice red. Good tip, by the way, is if you set color management to standard, this gradient is going to look more like it's supposed to. But another thing we need to do is we need to be able to go up and down with the volume thing. So how do we do that? Basically, I'm going to make part of it transparent and part of it not, is the idea. So take everything we've done, send it through a mix shader, and we are going to mix it with what? With transparency. Sometimes when people aren't feeling very with their community, it's almost like they are mixing themselves with transparency, and they're hiding and disappearing. With the mix shader, you're going to see that this transparency thing isn't really working. This is because we're in Eevee, so go to the material, blend mode, set it to alpha blend, and now we get a nice, thing here. But we want to separate the top and the bottom instead of just having it all be uniformly transparent. So with the same Y gradient that we have from before, the separate X, Y, Z, we can just filter this through a math greater than or less than. I'm going to use greater than, which lets me control the height of it. As you can see, it's just moving this gradient up and down. Take this, connect it to the factor of the mix shader, which is basically saying what is going to be transparent. And this is how we are going to control the levels. Now the question is, how do we make this slider that's going up and down dependent on some audio source or some music or whatever? And it turns out we can't do it directly in the node editor. We need to have a kind of a transitionary workaround thing. Either way, add an empty or just any object. I prefer an empty because it's not going to be seen on render. And this is going to be our placeholder object that's going to store all the data for the sound. So to store the data, you have to actually open up the graph editor, which is weird. Take your empty, make any keyframe, ideally a location keyframe, so that we have X, Y, and Z information. And on the Z channel, or any channel, whatever you pick, go to key, go to bake sounds to F curves, and then you just pick your sound source. So just render out an MP3 or a WAV file or something. Here's a song. It's called 9 Lives. I use it in all my tutorials. And you can see, even though you can't hear it, what it's done is it's taken this audio and taken its amplitude and mapped it to the Z channel. Either way, we now have an intermediary where if we now add in a value node and we want to transfer the Z channel information to here, we can do that. How? Select the empty, go to its properties with the N panel, and you can see the Z is going up and down. This is being animated. Right click, copy as a new driver, in the material, so this is again how we're putting this in the thing, go to paste driver, and now we have this information right here that we can connect. And if we view this, it will look like it's going up and down, because it is, and it's actually going to the music and all that. By the way, I should mention at this point, if you want to do any kind of filtering at this point, you could, because we can send this through some math expressions. So if we multiply this by 0.5, it's going to look like it's very calm. If we multiply it by 2, it's going to be peaking more often. You can do stuff like that. But what I'm interested in is the fact that we don't have an outline, and there's no kind of like obvious way to do this into shader editor. So I want to show you an easy way to add a black outline that makes this thing look more intense. So first of all, pick a frame that you like, well, you know, like this one, and we're going to set our camera up so that when we render, it's coming from the right perspective. So the camera, I'm just centering it and then moving it up on the Z-axis. So when we view it, there we go. You can see, you know, this is the view we have. So again, pick a frame you like. I like ones that with high amplitude, even though I can't find one. There's one. Take it, render it, and you're going to notice we still have a background, which is actually bad for business. So in the render tab, go to film, go to transparent. Now it's not going to render, and beautiful. Now we have no background. So in the compositing workspace, what we can now do is do a bit of a node magic to add in an outline in post, which doesn't take too long to calculate. How do we do this? Well, first of all, take your alpha channel. This is basically a black and white mask saying where's their image, where is there not. What we want to do is expand where there is image, or the white area, to make an outline. So use a dilate/erode node. We're going to be dilating like an eyeball. By the way, fun fact about dilating eyeballs, the more you're thinking about something, the more your pupils actually dilate. So you can actually tell how hard somebody's focusing on a task or how hard they're thinking by measuring the radius of their pupil. Either way, you take this distance and increase it to whatever you want. So here's the before, the after, and what we need to do is say wherever we have this, we're going to make it black, the outline, and then we're going to overlay the thing on top. So first of all, what we need to do is create a black that uses this as an alpha. So I'm just going to combine RGBA. RGB, red, green, blue, are going to be set to 0 since it's black, and then use this as the alpha, which gives us black only in this area. If we now take these and overlay them on top of each other with an alpha, not a set alpha, but an alpha over, where the black is going to be under the image. Image goes into second socket. You can now see we have in some sense, in every sense, procedural outline where we can control the thickness of it. So it could be crazy thick, or even thicker, or even thicker. And the thing is, no matter what frame we render, it's actually going to keep this nice outline. So if we go to a new frame, render it out, you can see it's actually generated our outline. And then when you render this all together, using whatever audio source it is you want to use, it does the thing, and you've made a very simple kind of like audio level that exists in any program. Anyways, thanks for watching my tutorial, and since you've made it to the end, welcome to the advertisement part of it, but not for just any company. I'm talking about my kind of establishment, and that is Patreon. So Patreon, why would you want to join it? Why have nearly 750 more, 60 people already joined it? Well, it's not only the good feeling in their hearts, I assume, but also they get a bunch of stuff in return. So you get blend files. So for example, this blend file you get access to. You don't need to actually make it yourself. Any blend file I've made over the last 2 years, actually I looked, it's more than 2 years. I've been doing this for longer than I thought. I started it in college, but you get the blend files, you get early access to tutorials. Nowadays, that's been multiple days early. I don't know. You also get access to exclusive tutorials that I only post on the Patreon. Recently, like yesterday, 2 days ago, I made a tutorial about audio waveforms in terms of like sine waves and stuff like that. So you can learn how to do that. But I post those every once in a while. You also get, I guess you also get part of the Discord thing, but whatever. Those are the main things. You also get a behind the scenes look, stuff like that. But in general, if any of those benefits interest you, or if you want to support this channel and the CG Matter channel and keep this butter churning, you now know how to do it. There's a link in the description. Anyways, thank you for watching, and go do something with your life. The video is over. Go do something.